Views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters for this Tuesday, the 26th, episode 103 here on NOK Network, the video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer for Kirkland Lake, Ontario for the awesome intro track. Originally recorded by the Moody Blues with some customized changes for our show. I am joined by my amazing joint host, Tarra Simpson, along with the one and only Bufo Alfarius, who has chosen all of our stories for us. Hello, Tarra.
Well, hello, Hobbies, and hello, everyone. I hope everyone's had another fantastic week and weekend. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He's our Sonoran desert toad or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while as fun as that sounds, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick that toad. How are you, Hobby?
Very good. I was imagining licking the toad.
Absolutely. That's one of the wise advice is not to lick the toad unless you know what you're doing. Yeah, but if you're not experienced, and I wouldn't advise it, but do your thing. Teach their own.
Right. Well, and there's other ways to get DMT and healthier ways to get DMT into your body now.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that there's plant-based DMT, there's sea sponge-based DMT, there's fish-based DMT. I mean, there's so many different options for those wanting to dabble with some DMT. You don't necessarily have to lick the toad.
Oh, no, not at all. So, amazing week this week for the storyline.
Absolutely. Bufo has outdone himself again.
This first story comes from us from the Illinois area, and it is the South County Mail.com, and it is Illinois steps forward with psychedelic therapy and the Cure Act. And wow, those mushrooms look really cool. What the hell is a Cure Act?
Well, Illinois is taking a big leap by considering a new bill that could change how we treat mental health issues. The state Senate's committee has been looking at an exciting proposal from Senator Rachel Ventura, known as the Compassionate Use and Research of Entheogens Act. This act wants to make psilocybin legal for therapeutic use and create spaces where it can be safely provided. If this happens, Illinois would be leading the way in using psychedelic substances in medicine. The move shows that more people are open to different kinds of treatment. What you need to know about the Cure Act. What the bill hopes to achieve. The goal of the Cure Act is simple. Make it easier for people to get psilocybin and similar drugs, pushing past long-held negative views on these substances by doing away with these restrictions. Controlled Substance List Update. The Act has opened the door for controlled and medicinal use of these drugs.
Wow. Growth strategies. The law also looks ahead, planning to bring in other substances like mescaline, ibogaine, and DMT by 2027. This shows a broad plan for the role of psychedelic treatment in the future. The organizational setup, this creation of the Illinois Psilocybin Advisory Board, proves that the state wants to make sure expert opinions will shape how this law operates, striking the balance between easy access and safety. Senator Ventura is pushing this bill because he really believes that plants can be powerful medicines. He highlights how useful psychedelics can be people dealing with mental health issues. Ventura hopes to change how we see these drugs are as important and helpful tools for therapy, gaining wide-ranging support. Woo!
So, the proposed law has won over a variety of people, including cops and healthcare workers. This shows that many agree with the new ways to handle mental health issues. The support from different areas signals a change on how society views these helpful psychedelics offer for therapy. Key impacts on the economy and society. So money matters. When they talk about putting taxes on psilocybin items, they're looking at bringing in money for the state while also making psychedelic therapy safer and more available through rules. Rules to follow. Groups like the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Public Health will make sure psilocybin is made and sold safely. This underscores their dedication to keeping things safe and effective, reflecting a nationwide perspective on psych ed. So psychedelic. Go ahead.
Psychedelic reform trends. The state of Illinois is part of a growing trend across the U.S. where there's a lot of talk about the medical use of psychedelics. Many states are looking into this because scientists are finding out how they might help with tough mental health situations. More people are paying attention, understanding psilocybin, healing powers. Psilocybin isn't about trippy experiences. It can also unlock deep emotional healing. It's showing potential to treat serious problems like depression, fearfulness, and PTSD in new ways. How it works. When you look at what psilocybin does to serotonin receptors in the brain, it gets pretty complicated, but studying this can show us how psychedelic drugs work inside our heads, how to use it. There's a lot of differences in how people take psilocybin when it comes to things like how much and when. The lack of clear guidelines on how to use these substances and what amount shows why it's critical to have rules that make sure they're issued safely and effectively.
Vision for the future. Illinois is considering a new law called the Cure Act, which could totally change mental health care. The act brings hope for people looking for different treatment options and pushes everyone to think differently about psychedelics in medicine. A lot of different groups support this change, and the journey from just an idea to making it real shows how much people want to see therapy change. As more studies show the good sides of psychedelics, Illinois works on this law Illinois' work on this law starts a whole new chapter in mental health care, one filled with kindness, fresh ideas, and strong focus on helping those who struggle with their mental health.
Wow.
What a great article.
Wow. It's man, I can't express enough on how I enjoyed that article. And I know a lot of people in Illinois, so this is going to be beneficial to them and their mental health, for the products that even they want to go to.
Absolutely. And I mean, having that option, right? We all know that these psychedelics aren't harmful, and that they are helping people. So why can't people just have that choice? Just as they would choose whether to take that pharmaceutical or not to take that pharmaceutical. If they want plant-assisted psychedelic therapy, I don't see an issue with it.
Well, and the way treatment is, I mean, there's so many different ways to approach a thing that you can work with your doctor on how to healthily do it for you. And it works out if your doctor has been a doctor that knows you, knows, your other stuff. But everybody else is now demanding to be the rights to be able to take these psychedelics as they come out. And that brings us to our next article, Daily Beast and .com, and cops demand the right for the cops demand the right for cops to do psychedelic drugs. Are they tripping? A group of police officers is calling on the United Nations to help lead a narcotic revolution that would see cops do MDMA to help fight PTSD. And this is from Matha Busby.
Wow, that gives me goosebumps, actually, that even they are on board now. That's very cool. So Sarko Jurganian, a Massachusetts police lieutenant, is not your average cop. He's also a trained MDMA-assisted therapist. His police chief even gave him permission to take a trip with the medicine, also known as ecstasy or Molly, during a clinical trial. It opened my heart and my mind, he told the Daily Beast. For decades in the U.S., police officers have served as frontline troops in a militarized war on drugs, in which millions were jailed for nonviolent offenses, but a small cadre of serving and former police officers in the U.S. and across the world are, like Juranian, finding that when used responsibly and therapeutically, some of the drugs can ease distress and make them happier.
On the sidelines of the United Nations Annual Commission on Narcotic Drugs in Vienna on Wednesday, Georgian sat beside three former senior policemen as part of a panel organized by the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, LEAP, titled Why Police Need Access to Psychedelics Urgently. They pressed authorities around the world to swiftly make MDMA-assisted therapy, MDMA-AT, available for their comrades, both as a preventive medicine and treatment for PTSD, which is rampant and may affect as many as 1 in 2 officers. The scale of the mental health crisis in policing means that in the US and the UK, officers are more likely to commit suicide than die on duty. Wow.
Yeah. MDMA can push treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder into remission, says Duranian, who had a postgraduate qualification in mental health counseling before joining the police in 2010, initially as a patrol officer, and is speaking in a personal capacity. Why not create wellness programs for first responders with MDMA -AT built in so cops don't get to the point where they're blowing their own heads off with their guns? I would agree with that statement. The origin of Duranian's training is a story for the ages. He attended a police chiefs conference in Florida in 2018, where the psychedelic healing advocate Rick Dolblin and founder of the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, also known as MAPS, created clinical data on the effectiveness of empathinogenic stimulant. I was already a trained psychotherapist, and I asked him, how can I help with this? Duranian recalls. He answered, become a psychedelic assisted therapist, and he gave me his card. Duranian duly underwent MAP's 100-hour training program and made an appearance in the Netflix psychedelic series, How to Change Your Mind. Wow, that's cool.
Wow. Now, Drugerian, the psychedelic healing lieutenant, is perhaps the most high-profile advocate among serving police officers for psychedelic therapy. Already, he has held space for veterans and retired police undergoing ketamine trips, and he stands ready to facilitate MDMA sessions for his fellow officers if the Food and Drugs Administration approves therapy for the stress disorder in August, as expected. Wow, it seems far out. Built with the U.S. Veterans Affairs Department already funding a pilot scheme providing ketamine-assisted therapy for former soldiers, perhaps police officers, will soon be able to access the drug as part of the love drug as part of their health insurance schemes. Now, this article rocks.
Mm-hmm. Duranian even thinks psychedelic therapy can help to heal the crisis in policing, where accusations of racial bias, fatal shootings have led to the defund the police movement. Psychedelic assisted therapies are the antidote to a highly contagious infections like hate, he says. They will help to create space so we can carefully move forward towards one another, listen, accept, and extend a hand in service to each other for the sake of our entire planet. Neil Woods, board member of LEAP and a UK former undercover detective who wrote the bestseller Good Cop, Bad War, also thinks that it may be better to heal police officers and a society at large than to defund the police. The UN needs to start removing barriers to psychedelic research and legalization, says Wood, who organized the panel. Nation states need to stand up and initiate and innovate for the sake of their cops too. The evidence is here. People are dying, and we need to do something about it. We want psychedelic therapy integrated to protect the mental health of police as well as everyone else.
Woods knows several police officers who have undergone psychedelic therapy. One was a detective sergeant at the time who drank ayahuasca. How do you say it again?
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca, a visionary psychedelic brew from the Amazon, and rescued his mental health and his marriage. He also became a better, kinder police officer, Wood said. Another is PC Paul Healy, a serving officer of 22 years who recently told of how his experience of ayahuasca in Peru, psychedelics also turned his life around and helped him process trauma occurred from countless harrowing incidents and SCAT police aftercare. Serving officers in Canada have similar stories. It's no wonder so many cops are seeking their own solutions. Police officers who were exposed to trauma in the war on drugs now report that the effort did not limit access to drugs, but increased violence. Now they're fighting for psychedelics in the treatment of trauma and other psychological challenges. Ariel Knudsen, the head of Norway's Association for Humane Drug Policies, who attended the panel, posted on X. Wow.
Wow, that's pretty cool. LEAP's mental health in policing campaign comes as the severe lack of psychological and emotional support in the forces around the world is driving up unprecedented exodus, where record numbers across England and Wales and the US are quitting. Others, like Fabien Bilheran, a retired French detective who spent 8 years in the Paris Narcotics Brigade and was an ardent believer in the drug war when he began his policing career, have dawning realizations that they are part of the problem. He says this disillusionment is the reaction to his attempt to raise awareness of the suffering resulting from the drug war, led him to attempt suicide in 2020. I was a fanatical enforcer of the drug war, he recalls, but when I realized that policing violence made drug trafficking increase rather than go down, it was really bad for my mental health. He says he was about to shoot himself while sitting in an impounded car in the police station, but just as he was about to pull the trigger, the car alarm went off. The car saved my life, Bilheran, who also shared his story during the panel discussion, told Daily Beast. It was like a wake-up call. Wow.
All right, so after that, he sought outside of the police and received treatment for PTSD. But the sedating benzodiazepine drugs he was prescribed just made him slow and sleepy. He soon discovered that people were recommending other tools for fighting PTSD, and he did therapeutic work with psychedelic mushrooms, LSD, and 5-MeO-DMT. I felt that all the people around me were connected, he recalls. Bill says that his experiences with MDMA made it possible to co-write in the book The Law of Silence, published in 2022, which highlights the issues he sees in the police force. It helps me speak freely, more easily, and put words to my suffering, he says. Bilheran went to Mexico for some of his psychedelic experiences, but increasingly illegal psychedelic therapy is available under the radar and in some cases above board in the US and across Europe. Some underground psychedelic facilitators are ex-police officers and veterans. Von Polish, a former soldier who served in Iraq in 1991 and began facilitating mushroom truffle journeys in Holland after transformative 2013 ayahuasca, the mushroom trips, and has served psilocybin to around 30 serving police officers from his own country, Germany, the UK, and to the US. Everyone is looking for healing, insights, and inner peace, he says. It's about remembering you're a part of the magical universe and you belong here, that you are loved. Police officers are often spat at literally and figuratively, and that's a lot to deal with. Holy shit.
Wow.
This article.
I know. Ben Broughton, a cop for a decade in the UK, was proud of his work in the police. He rose to the rank of sergeant, arresting countless people for drug offenses before going to work for the UK's Financial Conduct Authority. But he says a magic mushroom ceremony changed his life, and it transformed his perspective of himself, his work, and his attitude towards drugs. So much so that he soon set about to train with a plant medicine shaman to become a medicine man himself. Fast forward 5 years, and he's holding his own ceremonies. Wow, I love that. Doctors and lawyers and people from all sorts of professions attend, including 2 serving police officers. They are both trying to change the police force from within the system, said Broughton. They've decided to focus on their own personal issues in ceremony and become more conscious police officers. If we can have a more conscious police service, that could be one hell of a change. One of the officers is actively campaigning for drug law reform, too. Wow.
We should have done things differently, but I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't been through those experiences that Broughton, alluding to the fact that he, like Biller and Woods, arrested countless people for drug crimes during his time in the force. And that was me once upon a time, he adds, but I've changed, mostly due to the medicine, and this is who I am now.
Wow. I love it. I love it. Way to go, Bufo. Great article.
Well, and wow, it's that's all I can say to that. Wow.
Right? I mean, these are police officers, and they're saying, "Whoa, hold up a minute! We got to stop putting people in jail for this. This actually helps people." That's powerful, because I mean, they have the power to put you in jail for it.
So the right, as an American, is theirs. I can't express that enough. They're right as American to take the same amount of legal drugs if they prescribe the psychedelics and the MDMA and all that other stuff. Is right to any person, or like even in the Canada, they should be able to.
Absolutely. I should have that medical right to say to my doctor, no, I don't want that tablet. I'm just going to go home and take some magic mushrooms, and please just write me a script so I don't get in trouble with the police, because it's not really legal yet. That would be great.
Right. My computer's taking a fritz this evening. The kids must be playing video games or something. So give it a second for the squirrels to catch up.
Okay. I gotcha. Those darn squirrels and kids video gaming, I hear you.
All right. I keep pressing StreamYard and it won't let me. Oh, there it is. There we are. Okay. All right. Let's bring up another article then here. That was article number 2, correct?
Correct.
All right. All right. So this next article is about a research trial.
Yes. And it comes from a mainstream media news of CTV.
Oh, wow. Wow. So that's over. Is that Canada?
Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is. This research is actually happening in Canada. The article hasn't come up on your screen yet, but I can start if you'd like.
Yeah, if we can. I want to keep the show going, but it's
so this comes out of Calgary CTV News. Effectiveness of psychedelics on alcohol use and the focus of U of C study. So this was written by Mark Villani and Michael Franklin. And it was published on March 20th of 2024. So this is very recent. Researchers at the University of Calgary are embarking on a first-of-its-kind study to test the use of psilocybin as an effective treatment for alcohol use disorder. The work, which will be conducted at the Hotchkiss Brain Institute, aims to find 128 people with alcohol use disorder who will then be assigned to specialized therapists and undergo sessions before and after treatment. We want to start with psychotherapy, which is effective on its own for some in this population, and then determine if adding psilocybin will improve the effectiveness of treatment. Mayo adds that psilocybin helps to open up what she calls the therapeutic window of opportunity that allows the brain to be more receptive to breaking negative behavioral habits. So instead of here's a medication that you'll take daily, every day, forever, with psychedelics, it seems to be a very kind of short, intense period that might kind of change behavior long term for people, she says. So it's not really about having to be medicated, but really helping provide an opportunity where they can change their behavior. And then hopefully, that on its own will be enough to sustain that long term. Psilocybin will be provided to the participants of the study in small or large doses, which last 8 hour long periods. Oh, wow. The drug will be used in combination with psychotherapy sessions that take place over the course of 5 weeks, with the intent of invoking meaningful habits change to reduce and stop the abusive use of alcohol. Wow, I'm getting tongue-tied today. Other experts on the trial said that if it's effective, it could be monumental for alcohol use disorder sufferers. I've worked with lots of people with alcohol problems. I've seen them struggle, said David Hodgins of University of Calgary psychology professor and co-principal investigator on the study. I welcome improvements. I understand the appeal of the idea of psychedelic therapy, but we need science to support using it as a first-line treatment. Hodgkin notes that the model of treatment being used in the study is called motivational enhancement therapy, with the intent of creating long-term and sustained positive habits. People are more likely to be able to sustain that work if they have a really good understanding and are very in touch with their own personal reasons that might want to live their lives a little differently, he said. So in addictions, the traditional model was very confrontational, and we would tell people that they have to break their denial, and now tell them what they need to do. This approach really helps people identify for themselves what reasons they have for wanting to make the changes and what strategies they want to develop to be successful. A new lease on life. John Greenwood struggled with alcohol use disorder for several years of his life, telling CTV News that he used the drug to mask the mental pain that he was going through. I hid the fact that I was an alcoholic because I was full of shame, guilt, and remorse. I felt like I couldn't let the world know because I didn't want to be looked at differently, he said. It came to the simple point where as soon as I had one alcoholic drink, I didn't know where it was going to stop. It was scary. I was full of fear, but I couldn't share that fear with anyone because my ego wouldn't let me. It took years of struggling for Greenwood to admit he needed help, but he said the road to his own personal recovery was more important than ever. When I finally realized there was a massive problem and that I was going to lose everything that I had worked for, I had to put my hand up and ask for help. That's when things began to change. While Greenwood doesn't agree with the use of drugs such as psilocybin to aid in recovery, he does say that the therapy and recovery were essential to understanding his true self. I do think that you need to do it with a clear mind without the use of most things. And I think that you have to do it for you. Don't be scared. Don't be anxious, because the gifts of going into recovery will start showing themselves very, very quickly, he said. I'm able to look at myself in the mirror now and be proud of who I am. It's just given me a new lease on life, and the community that comes along with recovery is like a big family where everyone has your back and people actually understand you. Former alcoholics like Jason Quilley understand more than ever the importance of having community. Through a journey of more than 20 years, he struggled with alcohol and drug addiction and went into recovery on 3 different occasions. He's now officially sober for 1 year. It sounds kind of strange, but I pray to remember that I'm an alcoholic every morning And that's the cornerstone of my recovery, is that I remember I need to get this treatment every day. If I don't, I will do something to treat myself every day, and I will fall back into the same habits as always, Quilly said. It's important to do this on your own. It can stop. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be the way that it is for you right now. You can change your life. Quilly has experimented with psilocybin in the past, and although he's sober now, he said he's optimistic for others to benefit from treatment involving the drug. While psilocybin didn't allow me to stay sober, it did help me function in the world, and I think it can be a magic formula for mental health. What worked for me might not work for somebody else, but as far as I'm concerned, the more options there are for people who decide to quit, the better it is for them to come somewhere and be safe. The study is supported by the Canadian Institute in Health Research, and Filament Health will be providing the psilocybin for the trial. Those interested in participating can email, and they list the email here. It's fuck me, I am like dyslexic today, and Hobbies has left me. PACTLAB@ucalgary.ca. And that was yet another cool article from Bufo on what's happening here in Canada with alcohol use disorder and the use of psilocybin to treat it. What a great article.
That was a great article, and I had to log in on the laptop because the other computer reset.
I figured that's what happened.
Yeah, well, and it brings us to our lunch hour, and that gives me a few minutes to tinker around and bring it up on the other computer. So it is medication time.
So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and we will be back with more articles that Bufo has chosen for us, making mainstream media news.
We will be back here on the Psychedelic Reporters in episode 103 on NOK Network. Woo!
The opinions
Put it away for 30 minutes a day on IWK. The IWK 710 Daily Sesh is a virtual gathering where consumers meet up for a toke and some laughs at 7 p.m. Eastern nightly. Originally aired on Info with Kim social media pages, the IWK 710 Daily Sesh is now also podcasted on NOK Network. Rotating joint hosts bring you a variety of content during this 30-minute virtual smoke sesh. Take a break from the stresses of life and put it all away for 30 minutes a day on IWK. Podcasted nightly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on NOK Network.
Are you a Northern Ontario resident? Searching for credible information on cannabis as a medicine? No Sir is here to help. Established in 2013, Northern Ontario Cannabis Education and Resources is here for you. No Sir Director Kim Cooper brings you 45 plus years experience utilizing cannabis as a medicine and is spreading the education across the North. Activism, resources, referrals, and more at No Sir. Don't be a jackass. Say no sir to cannabis propaganda with No Sir. Find us at www.nocer.ca.
NOK Network presents Ganja News Update. Join joint host Christine Tarra and Michelle Parada as they bring you their global cannabis news update. Catch the Ganja News Reporters weekly on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as they cover cannabis news from around the globe in the 60-minute video news podcast. Stay up to date with Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern on NOK Network. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble.
Join us for NOK Network monthly specials, 12 months a year. Movie nights. Spotlight on entertainment. And live on location event coverage. Stay up to date about upcoming programming by subscribing to NOK Network on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Rumble. Check out our webpage at www.noknetwork.com. Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at noknetwork.com. Send us a message on our social media platforms or email us at info@noknetwork.com.
Welcome back to the show in our regular program.
And we're back from our medication session live here on Psychedelic Reporters here on NOK Network.
We have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine, so let's get at it. Alrighty, so all that time it took for it to go up, so I didn't have the screen shared. I was 1 second out yet.
That's okay.
So the next one is FDA grants, right? Yes.
Is that what it is? I thought it was. Yes. That's what it was.
All right, so this is natlawreview.com, legalizing LSD. FDA says to MM120. And this is by Hillary Campbell and Whitsteniker of Bradley Aaron Boots Cosanuas or something.
Yeah, maybe you can put that up on the screen. I'm not seeing it on my end.
Oh. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So, legalizing LSD, FDA says MM120. If you know either of us, you would also know. Sorry, this is so small, this print. If you know either of us, you know neither of us would pass up a chance to say, I told you so. As we look ahead to 2024 in January, we speculated that psychedelics could be legalized as prescription medication. Now, not even a quarter into 2024, proponents of the psychedelic industry should be more optimistic that federal legalization of psychedelics as medicine is closer than ever. MM120 is Mind Medicine Inc.'s proprietary pharmacologically optimized form of LSD, which MindMed is developing for generalized anxiety disorder, and other brain-based disorders. This month, FDA granted breakthrough therapy designation to the LSD-like substance MM120 for the treatment of generalized anxiety disorder. A breakthrough therapy designation is designed to expedite the development and the review of drugs that are intended to treat serious conditions, and preliminary clinical evidence indicates that the drug may demonstrate substantial improvement over available therapy on a clinical significant endpoints.
MindMed study showed that a single oral dose of MM120 led to clinically and statistically significant reductions in anxiety scores. 12 weeks after administration, with 65% of participants showing a clinical response and 48% in clinical remission following the treatment. Clearly excited by the possibilities of the study conclusions and its approval, MindMed recently stated the FDA's decision to designate MM120 as a breakthrough therapy for generalized anxiety disorder, and the durability data from our phase 2B study provide further validation of the important potential role this treatment can play in addressing the huge unmet need among individuals living with generalized anxiety disorder. We are committed to bringing MM120 to people living with generalized anxiety disorder and delivering on the potential of our pipeline to treat serious brain health disorders. A notable aspect of MindMed's study and use of MM120 that has not coupled with a therapy component, the trials did not include any therapeutic interventions such as talk therapy or psychotherapy. This stands in contrast to many studies involving psychedelics that incorporate therapy as a component. If granted full approval, the absence of any therapy component may make the drug's use even more appealing to a broader base of the general public. Unsurprisingly, industry advocates see this as a very positive first forward step and a potential turning point for the psychedelic sector. FDA approval would almost certainly boost public perception and help to shed the stigma surrounding the industry. Oh, wow.
Wow, that's really cool. So what's next? MindMed is likely to meet with the FDA shortly and will also start phase 3 of its trial this year. MindMed will also be busy at the private level. We expect the study's data analysis to be presented at the American Psychiatric Association's annual meeting in May and to be published in a leading medical journal. If the FDA ultimately approves the new drugs application, DEA would need to reschedule MDMA accordingly. Currently, psilocybin, LSD, and MDMA are classified as Schedule 1 drugs by the DEA. This will be seen as a big step forward for the fruiting psychedelic industry. This move by the FDA could be seen as acknowledgement that psychedelics have the real potential to treat disorders, and physicians up until this point haven't been successful in finding ways to treat. It certainly bolsters our belief that the path forward for legalization of psychedelics will be paved by innovators in the pharmaceutical industry. Interesting.
Yeah, I like that story. That's especially after the demand, we're starting to hear they're already starting to do coding for insurances. We know it's on the way. We know it's happening.
Absolutely. I like that they're talking about LSD because I myself microdose with it. especially before this show, because it helps me actually pay attention to what I'm reading and not be all over the map. However, I also have used it to treat some pretty intense migraines over this last year. And it has worked in a moderate microdose to literally end my migraine in its tracks. Absolutely incredible. So hopefully more research will be done on that too, because I'd like to see if, is it all in my head or does it actually work? Right?
Right. Well, and it goes back to, as we're finding healthier medications for other ailments, we had, it's so this is brought from BBC. Okay, it's future. It's like what psychedelics legislation and decriminalization looks like around the world, and this is by Jennifer Chesney.
Psychedelics see increased legislation and decriminalization globally as treatment usage expands. Research continues to progress on the potential mental and physical health benefits of psychedelics used in therapeutic context. Yet psychedelic substances remain illegal around much of the globe, with notable exceptions. As of 2024, some psychedelics have been given legal or decriminalized footholds in parts of Central Africa, so Equatorial Guinea, Cameroon, and Republic of the Congo, South Africa, Australia, Bahamas, Brazil, the British Virgin Islands, Canada, the Czech Republic, Costa Rica, Israel, Jamaica, Mexico, Nepal, the Netherlands, Panama, Peru, Portugal, Samoa, Spain, Switzerland, and the United States. Psychedelics include psilocybin, which can be found in magic mushrooms, MDMA, ecstasy, also known as Molly, LSD, also known as acid, ayahuasca, peyote, ibogaine, among others. The legal landscape of these substances is changing globally amidst continuous emerging research on the various benefits of therapeutic use. Psychedelics have been shown to help with mental health conditions and such as treatment-resistant depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. They are also being studied for the relief of physical health conditions such as those related to chronic pain. Psychedelics are not only very effective at treating a wide range of indications that currently lack treatment options, but are also proving that when used responsibly, very safe, said Grace Bless Hopesley, a neuroscientist and psychedelic researcher affiliated with King's College London in the UK. That is very cool.
Oh, wow. Look at that rock. Okay, so in some countries, various psychedelics have full legalization. In other countries, certain psychedelics have been legalized only under specific contexts. And still, in other areas, some of psychedelics have been decriminalized. Decriminalization can mean different things. Generally, it implies that people can possess or use a personal amount of the substance despite it being illegal, although sometimes minor fines apply. It literally means that they're not going to put resources behind arresting and prosecuting people, says Musan Marks, a visiting professor at Harvard Law School and the senior fellow and lead to school's project on psychedelics law and regulation. Mark says that the criminalization of drugs, including psychedelics, creates more harm than good. What happens when you criminalize something is that people don't want to talk about it with their doctors. He says people can't talk amongst themselves. It's quite plausible that when something is criminalized, people might hesitate to call for emergency medical services. Blast hopefully agrees. I believe that legalization of all drugs, she says, allows for the removal of criminal activity from the supply chain and adults to make decisions on what they put into their bodies. That is also true for obtaining products that are assured for quality. but she adds note of caution. Psychedelics are extremely powerful substances. She says any change in legalizations towards better access I would welcome greatly. However, it must come with education around psychedelics in their totality, not just the positives, but also the risks, the effects, the enormity of impact that using large doses of substances can have acute and long term. Argument against legislation and decriminalization includes concerns over any potential increase in substance use disorders. However, psychedelics are currently being studied as a potential treatment for substance use disorders and are not considered addicting themselves. Other concerns include potential increase in psychedelic-related emergency, such as emergency department visits for bad trips. However, emergency department visits tend to be rare for LSD and psilocybin, though more common for MDMA. Here's a closer look at the status of psychedelics around the globe, including the ever-changing landscape of legalization, decriminalization, and drug review agency approvals.
Okay, so are psychedelics legal in the United Kingdom? Psychedelic substances are very much controlled in the UK, says Bless Hopefully, who is the founder of Psychedelica, a UK-based community of researchers aimed at investigating psychedelics and their effects on female biology. Psychedelics like LSD and psilocybin are still both Schedule 1, defined as having no therapeutic benefit and requiring a license from the Home Office government, plus considerable security and cost implications to conduct research, she says. Advocacy groups are pushing for change in the UK. There have been movements within our government lobbying groups to allow access for psilocybin for therapeutic relief in end-of-life cancer patients and military veterans, Blessed Hopefully adds. Sadly, all discussions brought to the parliamentary chamber and the government have been swiftly done away with, stating no plans of the government to review or change the status.
Central Africa, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Cameroon, and Republic of Congo. Ibogaine, which is being studied for opiate use disorder and PTSD, comes from the sacred iboga plant native to Central Africa, where it is used by indigenous communities for ceremonial purposes in Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Cameroon, and Republic of the Congo. In these areas, ibogaine generally lacks a legal framework regulating it. It is, however, legal in Gabon, where it is protected. Oh.
Yes. South Africa. In South Africa, ibogaine is considered a medication, and it can be provided by licensed professionals. Wow, is that ever cool? Because ibogaine is iboga, and in some parts of Africa, it's legal, and you can just take it, and others you can't. You need a professional. But it's interesting that they prescribe it there. Yeah.
Australia in 2023, Australia's Therapeutic Goods Administration, the agency responsible for regulating medicines, decided to allow authorized psychiatrists to prescribe some psychedelics for certain mental health conditions. The TGA permits the prescribing of MDMA for PTSD and psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression. Ibogaine can also be prescribed to treat addiction in Australia. The decision acknowledges the current lack of options for patients with specific treatment-resistant mental illnesses, the TGA wrote in a press release.
Wow. The Bahamas. Psilocybin is legal to possess and use, but not to sell in the Bahamas. The British Virgin Islands, psilocybin is also legal to use and possess, but not to sell in the British Virgin Islands. Wow. Okay. So you can have it, you can use it, you can probably gift it, but you can't profit.
Peru, ayahuasca is legal in Peru, which in 2008 designated the psychedelic a part of indigenous heritage.
Mexico. In Mexico, psychedelics are generally considered illegal. However, there is an exception that has made the country a hotspot for psychedelic retreats. Article 195 is of the Federal Penal Code states that people cannot be prosecuted for spiritual or ceremonial use of psilocybin or 5-MeO DMT. The latter is secreted by the glands of the Sonoran desert toad, as we all know, that's bufo, and it is also found in some plants. Ibogaine is unregulated in Mexico, making the country a place where people seek treatment. Peyote is legal in Mexico only for indigenous ceremonies and traditions.
Well, in Costa Rica, though not legal, personal drug use is not prosecuted in Costa Rica, and ibogaine is unregulated in Panama.
Wow. Psychedelics in the European Union. The European Union classifies psychedelics as Schedule 1, meaning they are highly controlled and illegal except for scientific or limited medical purposes. The European Medicines Agency, the agency's Central Nervous System Working Party, and the representatives from the European College of Neuropsychopharmacology recently issued commentary in the journal Lancet. The author acknowledges that the mental health issues affect 1 in 6 people in the EU. There is a need for effective, safe new treatments for mental disorders, the commentary says. In the past decade, there have been renewed interest worldwide in psychedelics as potential treatments for various mental health conditions.
Wow, the Czech Republic, despite the legality of psychedelics across the EU, some countries within Europe have moved to either legalize or decriminalize certain substances. The Czech Republic, for example, decriminalized personal possession of small amounts of psilocybin, MDMA, LSD, and peyote.
Cool. The Netherlands. In the Netherlands, psilocybin truffles are legal, though other forms of the compound are not. And ibogaine is unregulated in the country. Other psychedelics remain illegal.
Germany, ibogaine is unregulated except for pharmaceutical rules under the German Medicinal Products Act. The country has several ibogaine treatment centers. Ooh.
Portugal, at the start of the 21st century, decriminalized the personal possession and use of all drugs. Spain has also decriminalized drug use.
Switzerland has decriminalized substance use in general. The psychedelic LSD was accidentally synthesized in the country by chemist Albert Hofmann. Switzerland now allows for restricted, compassionate use in a medical context of LSD and some other psychedelics. The Federal Office of Public Health must grant permits for such use. The agency says roughly 70 physicians have permits. This means that a small number of patients are treated with the substances each year while we wait larger studies about safety and efficacy. This says Abigail Calder, a psychedelic research and doctoral candidate of the University of Fribourg. Switzerland has led the exceptional use program in place off and on since 1980s, Calder adds, and most recent laws have been in effect since 2014. This makes them the first country in which modern era to have legal psychedelic therapy, albeit only on official request, she says. I doubt there are any plans to legalize psychedelic therapy more broadly until there is more research on safety and efficacy.
Israel, in 2019, approved a compassionate use program for the therapeutic use of MDMA in people with post-traumatic stress disorder and for several other patients.
Jamaica is a popular place for psychedelic tourism thanks to its lack of a law surrounding psilocybin. Magic mushrooms have never been illegal in the country.
Nepal. In Nepal, psychedelics such as psilocybin are not explicitly mentioned in the country's Narcotic Drugs Control Act 2033. The UC Berkeley Center for Psychedelic Sciences reports that psilocybin is legal in the country.
Canada and the U.S. have been slowly expanding access to psychedelic substances in Canada. Most psychedelics are illegal based on their classification under the Controlled Drugs and Substance Act, and a few exceptions. The psychedelic compound 5-MeO-DMT is legal for personal use and possession in Canada. And although mescaline is listed as Schedule 3 controlled substance, peyote is not. Mescaline is extracted from peyote. In 2022, Health Canada, the government's department responsible for health policy, added a special amendment to its Special Access Program. The amendment allows physicians to request access to psilocybin, MDA, DMT, and LSD, and other psychedelics. The SAP is only available for certain serious medical conditions. It's meant for emergency basis only, and patients cannot possess the substance, must be administered by the doctor or psychotherapist. It is not meant for long-term access, says Harrison Jordan, the founder of Substance Law, a firm focusing on regulatory compliance regarding psychedelics and other controlled substances. Health Canada divulgated to its prescription drug list in 2017, but the agency does not recognize its medical use. Therefore, SAP requests are unlikely to be granted. The Canadian province of British Columbia has decriminalized small amounts of illicit drugs, and Alberta in early 2023 implemented a framework for regulating and licensing some healthcare providers to administer some psychedelics for mental health treatment.
Wow, that was a long one, but that's very interesting. I didn't know that 5-MeO-DMT was actually legal here. That's really cool. The United States. In the U.S., psychedelics are considered illegal under the Controlled Substances Act. However, Native American ceremonial use of peyote is protected under federal regulation and in at least 28 states. The Food and Drug Administration, however, granted breakthrough therapy designation for MDMA for post-traumatic stress disorder in 2017. In 2018, the agency first granted the same designation for psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression. These designations helped allow psychedelic research to progress. In 2024, the FDA is considering MDMA for therapeutic use in conjunction with psychological intervention in people with post-traumatic stress disorder, now that the agency has accepted an application from Lykos Therapeutics. In addition to small changes at the federal level, some states and cities have moved to legalize psychedelics for medicinal purposes or decriminalize them for personal use. The state of Oregon decriminalized most drugs in 2020 via Measure 1110. However, the governor is set to sign a bill to recriminalize. Republican opposition to Measure 1110 grew after a spike in fatal opioid overdoses. Research published in 2023 found that Measure 1110 was not associated with the increase in the short term, but the long-term research is needed. A group of business and political leaders in the state called for a ballot measure to repeal or alter the law, and many Democrats who were once in favor of Measure 1110 changed their position. Opponents of recriminalization note that Measure 1110 was supposed to direct cannabis tax revenue towards addiction services. However, the pandemic hindered the process. If the governor signs the new bill, the state legislation of psilocybin use at licensed psilocybin service centers will remain in effect. The state of Colorado decriminalized the possession and use of small amounts of natural psychedelic substances for those 21 and over. The state also legalized, due to start in 2024, the supervised use of psilocybin at licensed facilities or with licensed clinical facilitators. In 2026, the state may start legalizing additional plant-based psychedelic substances such as DMT, ibogaine, or mescaline in the same context. A growing number of cities across the U.S. have also made changes to their laws surrounding psychedelics. Decriminalization has been a very popular approach at the local level, Mark says. There are about 24 cities across the country that have decriminalized to one extent or another. The list includes Washington, D.C., which in 2020 decriminalized the personal use of psilocybin. So far, it's only successfully done through a ballot initiatives by voters, Mark adds. In one exception, the California state legislature passed a bill to decriminalize the personal use and possession of psychedelics, but the executive branch said no, Marks said.
In Samoa, in the region of Oceania, psilocybin is illegal in Samoa.
And in New Zealand, ibogaine can be legally prescribed.
Wow, that was a pretty kick-ass article.
Absolutely. I learned a few things I didn't know about Canada and DMT. That's kind of cool. I didn't realize it was put on the schedule, but they put it on there believing it doesn't do anything, but yet we know otherwise. So that's really cool.
And a lot of people look at holidays, going on a holiday and going on a trip, and now you know where a safe place you can go and take your psychedelics and not have an issue. I got a buddy that's visiting Turkey right now, where 2 years smoking a joint in Turkey would get him.
Wow, isn't that crazy? Yeah, but I'm with you on that. If I vacation, I like to go someplace, first of all, that's cannabis friendly. And second of all, now that I'm into the psychedelics more, psychedelic friendly. So that's always an option for all you tourists out there. Always make sure where you're going, your supply is safe, and that you're not going to go to jail in that country, because that could really suck.
Right. And that brings us for joining us here on the Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network, and for tuning in to our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media sites.
We really hope you enjoyed our update on mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
And many thanks to our sponsors and to my joint host, Tarra Simpson, and to Bufo Various for choosing the stories, and to you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. Let's hear from Denricker again from Kirkland Lake on our way out. Bye.
Have a good one.
Looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the